Hey, happy Tuesday. Hope it's a great day for you. Today would have been, had she lived this long, would have been my mother's 94th birthday. Unfortunately, metastatic cancer took her down 20 years ago, just over 20 years ago. I loved her. I miss her. She was a special lady. Well, I was thinking about that. I actually was going through some papers just a little while ago. Came across some memoirs that she put together sometime between the time she was diagnosed with cancer and treated and got over it, and then it came back and so forth, and ultimately took her life. Somewhere in the midst of that, she began to write all those things down, and one of my sisters put it all together, typed it up, and it's a very special keepsake for somebody like me. It tells a lot of events from her life. You know, when I think about my mother, I know I wouldn't be what I am, and I see some of her characteristics come out in me from time to time. You know, I'm like most kids, some of those things that I thought I would never say. I hear my mother's words coming out of my mouth, and I'm saying them, but that's the way it is. My mother was just an ordinary person, hardworking, diligent, dedicated, loving mother, stern disciplinarian. Boy, she was tough. She was just an ordinary person, funny, serious. You say, well, that sounds a lot like my mother, too. Yeah, well, that's the way it is. We love our mothers, don't we? I truly love my mother. I don't know that anybody makes a better meatloaf than she made. I love to eat her meatloaf. Anyway, I was thinking about that and how precious they are. And as I came across those writings, the things that she had jotted down, I was looking through a few of them and just events from her life, family, things that her mother and her father did, and they were colorful, interesting people, just ordinary people. And in these cases, nobody's going to pay much attention outside of family that they came and they went, and nobody's going to remember them long. I kind of think about Abraham Lincoln's words, the world will little know nor long remember. And that's the way it is with most of our lives, outside of our family members. But I thought about how important it is for us to share our stories. I was thinking about the statement or two in the life of Mary, the mother of Jesus. If you remember in Luke chapter 2, towards the end of that chapter, when Joseph and Mary had returned to Jerusalem to find Jesus, who'd remained behind after the family and so many other people had left following the great feast, the great Passover, figured out somewhere along the way that Jesus wasn't with them, made the trip back to Jerusalem, found him there in the temple, and ultimately he went home with them after that. But it makes a statement in verse 51. It says, but his mother kept all these things in her heart. Sounds like a mother, doesn't it? Don't you know that Mary had some stories to tell? Don't you know that every time she looked into the eyes of Jesus, every time she looked at him, she recognized that very special nature that he was? I guess every mother does in a way, but hers was even more. And every time some event like this came along, she stored it in her heart. Of course, then when he was a grown man and began the work that he was doing, the ministry that he shared, spreading the word of God, taking the message of the kingdom, the gospel, wherever he went, don't you know, Mary had some special recollections and a lot of stories that she could tell. As I looked at the writings that my mother had put down and reminded myself of the life that she had, being born in 1927, January 26th, 1927, into a world that was much more primitive than it is today, but advancing in a hurry. Growing up through the Great Depression, seeing the advancement of World War II, taking on adulthood, marrying a young preacher. How foolish that was. She's a special lady to me and to our family. And I'm so glad she told her stories. I'm so glad she wrote some of them down. I'm so glad to even still share a part of her life. What I'm telling you, friend, is you've got stories to tell. There are events in your life. There are things that are stored up in your heart. There are things your family needs to hear from you. Write them down, tell them aloud, sit down with them, laugh and tell the stories. Enjoy them. Make them special. Carry them on to generations. Yes, Mary had things stored in her heart. And I have no doubt that as time went by, she shared them and told them, and people benefited from them. Tell your stories. Today's a good day for it. To my mother, I would say, happy 94th birthday. And in my mind and heart, I am. And Mary, thank you for keeping those things in your heart. And to all of you who tell your stories, thank you for sharing them. The world's a better place for them. Hey, I hope you have a great Tuesday, and it's a blessing not only to you, but everyone around you. Enjoy your day, and we'll have more to share a little further down the road.